You don't decide anything. You stand in a line. The line moves forward. You move with it. Somewhere between the door and the desk, between the clerk's eyes and the blank space at the bottom of the form, something gets decided for you. You sign your name. You don't read everything first. The man behind you exhales. The line needs to move. That's it. That's the whole moment. No drums, no clarity. Just a pen leaving the paper and a clerk already looking past your shoulder. 3 days later, you're on a train heading south. Window seat. Alabama flatland, scrolling past in the gray before sunrise. The man across from you says he wanted to study engineering. You nod. You don't say what you wanted because you hadn't gotten that far yet. You were still in the part of your life where wanting felt presumptuous. Now you both want the same thing, to still be here by Thursday. Primary training is 9 weeks. The field is flat, the barracks are loud, and the PT-17 Stearman is waiting for you on a grass strip that doesn't look long enough. Open cockpit. 2 wings stacked on each other like a question. The engine turns over and the noise goes straight through your chest and comes out the other side. Your instructor's name is on a board. You never hear him use it himself. He sits behind you and says nothing. You will learn that this is not silence. This is assessment. He is building a file on you that exists only in his head, and the only way you find out what's in it is if he grabs the controls. Sometimes he grabs them with 1 second to spare. Sometimes you wonder about the math on that. There is a cadet 2 rows down in the barracks. Name is Marsh. He's from Ohio. He talks too much at dinner and not enough in the air. You notice him the way you notice weather. Not because it matters yet, but because something tells you it might. You don't know why, not yet. The first thing aviation teaches you is not how to climb. It's how to fall correctly. You are in the air for 11 minutes on your first solo before you realize you've drifted. Not a dramatic drift, not a crisis. 30 degrees off heading, 4 minutes of sky you cannot account for. You correct, you land. You write 4 words in your logbook that night that you will spend the next 2 years trying to make untrue. Poor heading discipline. Must improve. You improve, you have to. The ones who don't improve don't get a second logbook. The class starts at 42. You stop counting after the 3rd week because counting makes it feel like a game with a score, and you are not winning anything here. You are simply still present. One morning, the bunk to your left is empty. Tight corners, no wrinkles, like it was never used. No announcement at breakfast, no name mentioned at formation. Just an empty rectangle of mattress that everyone sees and no one looks at. You learn something that morning that no one writes in any manual. The sky doesn't mourn. It just opens up for the next man. Marsh is still here, still talking at dinner. Still going quiet the moment the wheels leave the ground, like the air does something to him that he can't explain on the ground. You watch him during formation drills. The way his aircraft holds its line, precise, almost rigid. Too rigid maybe, like a man who's concentrating so hard on not making a mistake that he's forgotten he's supposed to be flying. You recognize it because you did it for the first 2 weeks. You stopped when your instructor grabbed the controls during a crosswind landing and said, without anger, without drama, the single most useful thing anyone will say to you in this entire war: stop gripping. The plane can feel when you're afraid of it. You think about that sentence every morning for the next 6 years. The class is down to 34 by week 7. You stop looking at the empty bunks. You start looking at the sky instead. Napier Field is the same flat Alabama sky, but the aircraft underneath it is different. The AT-6 Texan does not forgive the way the Stearman did. The Stearman was a teacher, patient. It told you when you were wrong with a wobble, a drift, a gentle protest. The Texan tells you nothing. It simply executes whatever you input, including the inputs that kill you. Retractable gear, real torque, enough speed to make a mistake irreversible before you finished making it. 3 men in the cohort find this out in the first 2 weeks. 1 walks back to the field, 2 don't. Nobody talks about it. You are all becoming very good at not talking about things. Your instructor is a captain named Gorman. He has already done a full tour over the Pacific. You can tell not from anything he says, but from the way he occupies a room. Like a man who has learned that furniture is temporary. He doesn't lecture, he doesn't inspire. He hands you a diagram on the first morning, watches you study it for 30 seconds, then takes it back. Now do it, he says. Your hands will remember. Your brain will get in the way. 6 weeks. You practice the split S until the sequence lives somewhere below thought, until your hands move before the decision arrives. This is the thing they don't tell you about combat flying. The goal is not to become faster. The goal is to remove the gap between stimulus and response entirely, to become, in the air, something closer to a reflex than a person. Formation flying comes in week 5. 12 aircraft, wingtip to wingtip, the kind of proximity that makes your vision narrow and your breathing shallow until you force both back open. You learn that formation is not about skill, it is about the specific trust that exists between people who cannot afford doubt. The man to your left has to believe you will hold your line. So does the man to your right. The formation works because everyone agrees, without speaking, to be exactly where they said they would be. Marsh flies left echelon 2 positions down from you. He holds his line perfectly, every single time. You file that away somewhere. You don't know why yet. You don't remember climbing into the cockpit. That's the first thing that surprises you. You remember the briefing room, the smell of cold coffee and cigarette smoke, and something that might have been fear if anyone had been willing to name it. You remember the map on the wall, the red line arcing over the channel, bending south toward Belgium, terminating at a point above the bomber stream that you will be responsible for keeping alive. Then you are in the cockpit, hands already in position, engine already running, the middle part is missing. You will find out later this is normal, that the body, under sufficient pressure, edits its own footage, keeps what's useful, discards the ceremony, the P-47 climbs like it has somewhere important to be. The 8.5 O caliber guns in the wings, armor plate behind your seat, enough aircraft around you to feel like something real and organized. You are the wingman. Your job is specific and narrow and requires you to suppress every instinct you have developed for independent thought. Protect your leader. Hold your position. Do not be creative. You are not creative. The flak appears before you understand what you're looking at. Black flowers opening in the air. Soft, but almost soft. The kind of thing you might find beautiful if the first burst didn't open 20 feet off your left wingtip and drive the concussion straight through the airframe and into your back teeth. You follow your leader. You do exactly what you were trained to do. This is harder than it sounds. Every part of your body is filing a complaint and you are overruling every single one of them on the basis that Gorman's voice is still in your head saying, "Stop gripping." You land with 2 bullet holes in the right wing. You have no memory of the moment they arrived. The debrief takes 40 minutes. The intelligence officer is thorough and professional and asks about corridors, formations, enemy fighter vectors, the behavior of the bomber stream under pressure. He does not ask what you did with your hands during the last 4 seconds of the escort run when the second burst opened and your vision went white at the edges. You don't volunteer it. Decker is across the table. He doesn't debrief with words. He puts his coffee cup down, cold, untouched, and he looks at the wall behind the intelligence officer's head for a long moment. Then he looks at you. He has a photograph in his breast pocket. You can see the edge of it. You don't ask, so you see him make the turn. That's the part nobody asks about in the debrief. Not the shell, not the altitude, not the last known position. They ask about those things and you answer them correctly and completely and without hesitation because those are the questions you prepared for on the walk from the flight line. Nobody asks about the turn. It was the right call. Tactically, a diving attack from the northwest, intercept angle on the bomber stream. Decker breaks right to cut the geometry. Textbook, the kind of decision that gets cited in after-action reports as an example of correct instinct under pressure. He banked right, clean, precise, the P-47 responding exactly the way it was designed to. The rest of the flight banked left. You don't know in that half second that it's the last time. You don't feel it arrive the way people describe in the letters they send home. You simply process it as information. Decker right, formation left, regroup at altitude. Standard procedure. You complete the escort, you bring the bombers home, you land, you wait at the debrief. He doesn't come back. There is no confirmed account of what happened in the 60 seconds after that right bank. The clouds were at 22,000. The radio was intermittent over the target. 2 other pilots report hearing something on the frequency that might have been his call sign, might have been. That's what the report says. Might have been. You are given his responsibilities the following morning. No ceremony. The operations officer hands you a folder, tells you your element now has 2 aircraft instead of 1, tells you your new wingman is 19 years old and 3 weeks out of advanced training. You take the folder. You think about the photograph in Decker's breast pocket. The edge of it, white against olive drab. You never asked. You will spend a long time not asking yourself why you never asked. The 19-year-old's name is Carol. He finds you at the flight line that afternoon and stands at a distance that is not quite attention and not quite WWIIs. He looks at you the way you once looked at Decker. You know exactly what that look is asking for. You're not sure you have it to give. If you've made it this far, hit subscribe. We upload every single day, and the part that actually breaks you is still ahead. Mission 30. You have stopped counting the way you counted at the beginning, with anticipation, with dread, with the particular arithmetic of a man who believes that a high enough number means something. You count now the way a mechanic counts flight hours, clinically, because the log requires it. The Focke-Wulf 190 comes out of a diving attack on a B-17, low and slow on the recovery, exactly the profile Gorman diagrammed for you in week 3 of advanced training. You are already in position before you decide to be. Your hands move, 2 bursts, 4 seconds. It goes straight down. No drama in the falling, no spin, no fire, no long arc that gives you time to process what you're watching. Just a aircraft that was flying and then wasn't. A transition so abrupt it almost looks like an edit. You key the radio, call it in, continue the escort. At debrief, the other pilots shake your hand, slap your shoulder. Carroll grins like you've done something that belongs to both of you somehow, and maybe it does. He held his position through the entire engagement, steady, no drift, exactly where he said he would be. You fill out the form. This is the moment you have been building towards since Alabama, since the Stearman, since the logbook entry that said must improve, since Gorman and the split S and the formation drills and Belgium and Schweinfurt and every cold debrief and every Quonset hut between then and now. You expect something to arrive. You wait for it the way you waited for the flak the first time, knowing it's coming, not knowing from which direction. Nothing comes. The pen moves across the paper, same weight as always, same sound. The form is 2 pages. You complete both. You fold them. You hand them to the intelligence officer. You go to sleep. In the morning, you're back on the flight line before Carroll. You stand in the cold and look east and think about Decker's right bank. Clean, precise, correct. You think about it for a long time. Then you stop thinking and start checking the aircraft. The gas heater warms the left side of your face. The right side stays cold. You stop noticing after the 3rd week. You will later recognize this as a metaphor, but at the time, it is simply a deficiency in the heating system of a Quonset hut in England that nobody has requisitioned a replacement for, because there are more pressing requisitions ahead of it. You are a major now, squadron operations officer. You plan the missions more than you fly them. The wall in front of your desk is covered in maps that you have touched so many times the paper has softened at the edges. You know every flak battery position on those maps, every radar corridor, every stretch of the Rhine, where the clouds tend to sit low in November. You know who is tired before they know it themselves. That is the part they don't tell you about this job. It is not the logistics. It is not the sortie schedules or the aircraft availability reports or the letters that begin. It is with deep regret. Those are hard, but they are legible. They have a form. You fill the form and you file it, and it becomes part of the record. The hard part is watching a man's hands at breakfast. Calloway has been flying 12 missions when you pull him from the rotation. He argues, professionally, correctly, with 3 specific examples of why his experience makes him more valuable in the air than on the ground. He is not wrong about any of it. You write the order anyway. 2 weeks later, he finds you after dinner. He sits down without asking. He tells you he couldn't sleep. That every night he was running escape routes through Germany in his head, mapping them, revising them, lying in the dark building a road network through a country he hoped never to see from the ground. He tells you he didn't know how to stop. You tell him that's normal. You do not tell him that you still do it too, that the maps on your wall are partly professional and partly something else. That sometimes at 0200 when the HUD is quiet, you are not planning tomorrow's mission. You are planning a route from Schweinfurt to the Swiss border that you will never have to use and cannot stop refining. You write a report recommending specific route modifications over the Rhine corridor. 4 mission examples. Precise lost data. Clean argument. Command acknowledges receipt. You watch the wall. Nothing moves. You know 3 minutes before anyone says anything. You are watching the clock on the wall of the operations room, and you are doing the arithmetic that you have done on every mission for 2 years. And the arithmetic is not complicated. The escort formation is here. The bomber stream is there. The gap between them is 3 minutes at current speed, and 3 minutes at 22,000 feet over Dresden is not a navigational inconvenience. It is 7B17S. You know this before the first report comes in. You know it the way you know weather now. Not from instruments, but from the particular quality of the silence on the radio frequency in the 30 seconds before someone says something no one wants to say. 7 crews, 53 men. Gone in the gap between where you were and where you needed to be. The inquiry opens the following morning. 11 days, the same room, the same table. Different men across from you each session, working through the same sequence of events from different angles, looking for the load-bearing error, the decision that made the gap inevitable. You answer every question in the same voice. Direct, complete. The same tone you used in Belgium when the intelligence officer asked about corridors and you gave him corridors. You do not mention the Rhine corridor report, not because it would save you, it wouldn't. The Dresden error was navigational, not doctrinal, and the report addresses a different problem entirely. You don't mention it because the men in those 7B-17 are not interested in what you wrote 3 months ago. They are not interested in anything anymore. And importing your own record into their inquiry feels like the wrong kind of accounting. Your deputy tells you afterward that you should have been more aggressive in your own defense. You look at him for a moment. Aggressive toward what? You say. He doesn't answer. The inquiry closes without formal finding. Coordination breakdown. Personnel and procedural factors. A note in the group record that will mean nothing to anyone who wasn't in that room. You are not punished. You are not commended. You are simply still here behind the desk with the maps on the wall and the heater warming the left side of your face, and the route from Schweinfurt to the Swiss border that you keep refining in the dark. Carol asks you that evening if you're alright. You tell him yes. He nods, like he knows what yes means now. The briefing room smells like carpet and central heating, and the particular staleness of recycled air in a building that was designed to be permanent. You are a brigadier general, 1 star. You have been in this room or rooms exactly like it for 3 years, and you have learned something about rooms like this that nobody briefed you on when you got the star. Knowledge is not currency here. Position is currency. Proximity is currency. The specific weight of institutional trust that accumulates over years of being seen in the right places by the right people, that is currency. What you know, what you witnessed at 22,000 feet, what you wrote in reports that were acknowledged and filed and never acted upon. None of that converts directly into anything in a room like this. You sit, you wait, you know. The man presenting at the front of the room is technically proficient. The new aircraft are extraordinary. Jets, speeds your P-51 couldn't have matched on its best day. Altitudes that require pressurized suits and physiological training, and a relationship with the atmosphere that is categorically different from anything you flew through over Belgium or Dresden or the Rhine corridor. He has never smelled hydraulic fluid mixed with smoke at 25,000 feet. You don't say this. It would sound like complaint. And you have never complained, and you are not going to start in a Pentagon briefing room at the age of 34. You write doctrine papers instead. Close air support integration, fighter escort geometry, the specific vulnerability of heavy bombers to high-speed intercept from below and behind. A lesson that cost 53 men over Dresden and is still not fully absorbed into the manual 7 years later. The papers are read, acknowledged, filed. Some of it becomes doctrine. Most of it doesn't. Marsh is in this building. Different directorate, different floor. You pass him in the corridor once and you both stop, and there is a moment where the Alabama sky is briefly in the room between you. The formation drills, the tight echelon, the way he held his line every single time without being asked twice. He made colonel last year. You shake his hand. Neither of you says anything about Napier Field. Some things stay where they happened. You hear birds first. That is the thing that strikes you on the first morning in Virginia. Not the quiet, not the space, not the absence of requisition forms and sortie schedules and maps that need updating. The birds. You lie in bed at 0600 and listen to them and try to remember the last time you heard something that wasn't asking anything of you. You retired 3 years ago. 2 stars. A ceremony at Bolling Air Force Base that lasted 22 minutes. A flag folded with the kind of precision that only exists at ceremonies and nowhere else in the actual military. A handshake from an Air Force Chief of Staff who was 9 years old when you flew your first mission over Belgium. You drove to Virginia the following morning. The porch faces west. You sit on it most evenings and watch the light change over the tree line and think about nothing in particular, which is a skill that took you longer to learn than the split S maneuver and cost considerably more. The silence here is different from the other silences. It is different from the silence after Willis came apart over Alabama, which had shock inside it. Different from the silence at dinner after Schweinfurt, which had Decker's empty chair inside it. Different from the 11 days of Dresden, which had 53 men inside it. Different from the silence of the operations desk at 0200 with the maps on the wall, which had all the routes you never stopped planning inside it. This silence is empty, not hollow. Empty. There is a difference that you could not have explained at 18 on a train to Alabama, but understand completely now. A young historian from the University of Virginia comes to the porch one afternoon with a tape recorder and a notebook and the particular careful energy of someone who has rehearsed his questions. He asks about Schweinfurt. He asks about the Rhine Corridor report. He asks about Dresden in a way that tells you he has read the inquiry record and is hoping you will say something the record doesn't contain. You answer carefully, accurately, without drama. He transcribes. He thanks you. He closes his notebook and picks up his recorder and walks back down the porch steps toward his car. You don't watch him go. You look up instead. The sky above Virginia is wide and blue and completely indifferent to everything that ever happened inside it. To Willis and Decker and Carroll and Marsh and the 7B-17S and the Rhine Corridor and the briefing rooms and the maps with the softened edges and every form you ever signed and every letter that began it is with deep regret. Indifferent, not cruel. Just vast and old, and fundamentally uninterested in the human machinery that passes through it. Your hands are in your lap, no pen, no form, no logbook entry to write. You flew 73 combat missions. You held your line. You grounded the men who needed grounding and wrote the reports that needed writing and absorbed the inquiries that needed absorbing. The sky was never yours. You were only ever passing through it. What you did while you were passing through, that part was yours completely. If this story meant something to you, leave a comment below with the one level that hit hardest. Subscribe for more stories like this. We're here every single day.